Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Pixelated Echoes. We took a bit of a break. I'm going to explain everything, all the stuff that I did while I was on my break. But I'm happy to be back. I've been wanting to jump into the show for a minute, so I'm glad to have Fuzzy, the one and only Fuzzy here. But yeah, I went to Paris. I traveled a bit, got sick after my trip, and here we are. We're going to have some pretty cool topics, though, to get through today. I was explaining behind the scenes, me and Fuzzy was talking a little bit. There was this, from now on, when I go on a plane, I'm definitely wearing like a mask or something. Because the airport and airplanes, when you're just stuck with somebody for that amount of time, it's an 8-hour flight. You're just stuck by somebody. You can't go anywhere. I'm just sitting there, especially if you're in the middle seat, or if you're on the edge, then you're good, I guess, because you could kind of escape a little bit. But I was in the middle on the way to Paris, and on my way back, I was at the window seat, which I kind of like the window seat, looking out the window and whatnot. But I had a coughing man who was. I was talking to him for a little bit. He was going to India. So he said, like, oh, I got another flight after this, another 8-hour flight. So he had a 16-hour flight. It's crazy. He was nice man, but he was sick. And he definitely got me sick. So the week I was there in Paris, it was definitely amazing. Seen Eiffel Tower, seen Napoleon's tomb. One thing I would say about Napoleon's tomb, that dude is extra. I don't know if you guys have seen the tomb or seen pictures or whatever. What in the world? Like that, it had like ray tracing everywhere. Like it was marble, and it was beautiful. If you guys ever go to Paris, definitely check that out. Like you can't even get to his casket. His casket is kind of like just picture like a big dome, and you look up, there's all these intricate paintings and stuff like that. And then I guess there's like sections of the dome where it has other generals, I guess, that he fought with and things like that. They look amazing, but you can't really get to his casket. It's kind of like almost blocked off a little bit, but you can look at it. Kind of look at it from the top floor. You can go to the bottom floor and look at it. But that dude was extra for sure. I shoot, if I go out like any day now, I want a tune like that. I'm just saying. It's amazing. But hello everybody. How high is your mic gamma? I'll make sure I'll turn down a little bit if it's too high. But yeah, let's get into what games we've been. So, I have been playing 2 games, Metal Gear Solid 2. I've been revisiting that game. Still amazing. I still love. There's no game like Metal Gear to this day. It's kind of like political drama, spy thriller. There's just not a lot of spy games. So, I've been feeling like a spy itch. So I went back to go play some Metal Gear. And then I'm playing RoboCop right now. I got inspired by Mav. He was playing RoboCop on stream, and bro, I'm loving it so far. It is really embodying RoboCop. Like, you can give people tickets. Like, you basically can, like, just walk around, not even follow the main mission, which I didn't know. Like, I didn't really research this game at all, but you can do like side missions, help people like hey, I lost my son or something. Can you help me find him? You could just go off and do like a side mission like that.
Nice.
Super cool. The developer, they've made some terrible games in the past, so I wasn't really expecting much from this, but so far I feel like I'm RoboCop. Like you can't like sprint and dash and stuff like that because that's not what RoboCop does, right? But he feels kind of heavy. You feel like you're a tank. I'm really liking it. My only con, I I guess, right now is the lip sync. The lip sync is
Okay.
just awful. It's just like their lips do not match what they're saying, and some of the voice acting is good, but sometimes you'll get like a kid, and he's like, "Oh man, hey, RoboCop, thanks for whatever," and he looks like a grown man. I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm just like, "What the heck?" Besides that's just like little picky stuff, but like the graphics are amazing too. Um, this is like UE5 at its greatest. So, um, Fuzzy, what you been up to? And I'm gonna fix my mic while you're saying what you're what game you been playing this week.
Oh, I'm on my zombie killing kick right now. Like, I didn't really want to get back into Dying Light 2. Like, I love Dying Light 1. To me, it's still one of the best zombie games out there. Played Days Gone, played Dying Light, played the Dead Island series and stuff, but Dying Light was always that special game for me because it had a nice mixture of zombie types and just the parkour and everything else I loved about it. But State of Decay, didn't play the original, played 2 when it first came out. It was a bit buggy, and I took a break from it because there's things I love about what State of Decay is made of, or its bones. What the game loop is like. And at launch, it was a little bit buggy, so I put it aside. And game after game, comes out, and it's like, oh, it just gets pushed further down the backlog. But finally got back into it. I think they were making mention that update 38 is coming like next month or something like that, and that's going to be one of their last updates before they go full on into State of Decay 3 development. So I was like, I'll just give it a try. It's always appealed to me. I just haven't had, I haven't put the time into it. And man, I didn't know what I was missing. Like, they've definitely fixed things shortly after launch, as far as some of like being stuck indoors, or being stuck, like if the car is stuck on rocks and upside down or something like that. There were things you couldn't get away from, and it made it like annoyingly bad if you're trying to run away from zombies sometimes, or if you're trying to run them over with the car and then the car flips over because you hit one or something. But they've definitely polished that game. They've added so much content, whether it's the loot as far as different weapons, different like bonuses for the characters, different archetypes for the characters and stuff that you can level up. I've just been like reliving my the Walking Dead simulator community that I've built in like several different bases, and just the base building aspect is what for me delivers more than what Dying Light does. Like, Dying Light's great for just the, turn your brain off kind of slash zombies and things. And Dead Island 2 kind of does that really well as well. But like, having it where you have to look out and manage your survivors so they don't get too tired or wind up getting overwhelmed, and then they wind up dying, and then you have to track their bodies down to get some of the gear that you may have had on them and stuff, and just the different little details that they've gone back and reworked and updated and tweaked, and it just makes me that much more excited for State of Decay 3. But like, over the past week or two, I've probably put about 5 or 6 days into it, and I
Wow.
have like 5 communities that I've built up to my liking, and one has moved on to like the next town kind of thing. Um, did the like the horde thing that they added later, the daybreak stuff, and then there's like more of the story driven stuff that they have where you get to choose between 2 different pairs of characters, and try to build up a community. It's a little bit more of like The Walking Dead, but I just like the fact that you can start at any different level and you can kind of tweak things. You can make it as hard as you want or as easy as you want. And I'm playing around with a Nightmare one, and I'm playing around with a Dread one. I started Nightmare one and got pissed off that lost one of my good characters within a short period of time. Was sneaking around, doing everything like you're supposed to, staying quiet,
Do you normally play
and
games
I
on like
forget what I
super hard
did.
modes, or are you kind of like a normal medium mode kind of guy?
Oh yeah, I mean they have like Dread is like that medium mode, or like kind of like just above the standard
Okay.
mode.
Hmm.
And then there's like a green level mode where if you just want to do base building and not have to worry about dying and thirst and a lot of other, things that makes it more of a survival aspect, you can try that. And that was what got me started, because I was like, oh wait, oh, so I can turn up this difficulty where there's more zombies, but then they do less damage to the cars when I run them over. So if you just want to run over zombies, yeah, you can make it so the cars last a bit longer. But then when you decide to dial that up, and then the cars may break down, and you have to keep mind of how much gas you have on you and stuff like all of that. Just I've just fallen into it all over again, kind of thing. And it's like I as much as I love this game, I can't wait to see what Dying Light 3 is going to wind up being like, and not Dying Light 3, State of Decay 3 is going to be like. But
But yeah, I
seeing
mean,
like the
if they do
graphical
Down
stuff.
Light 3 too, I'll be looking forward
I
to
mean,
that too.
yeah, I hope they go back more to like the original because like there's something about Dying Light 2 I like less about in comparison to Dying Light
It
1.
feels less scary. Maybe that was
Yeah.
it. Like less for E. Like they improved some combat elements for sure, but
Mhm.
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest thing was like in Dying Light 1, being out at night, you felt the pressure, you felt the tension, and it I don't think they've recreated it as well in Dying Light 2. There's still some of the pressure with the screamers and things like that, but it doesn't feel as like I could die just stepping out of this building kind of thing. I mean, you still can, but it feels like there's a lot more leeway or a lot more weapons and things that you can kind of stand survive a little bit better. Which I mean, it makes it more of an enjoyable game overall. But something about Dying Light 1 was really the bee's knees for me. But State of Decay 2, the only thing it's missing is like UE5 graphics, which that's what State of Decay 3 is going to have to it. But the story, even I know it's not the most in depth story, but just having some of the choices you can have between the different communities or recruiting some people to your community and things like that, or if you're just doing the normal State of Decay 2 mode where you kind of build it as you go and you can either threaten other enclaves and things like that, or you could trade with them and all of that I hope continues to carry on and that they expand upon even more. Like I would like a little bit more of a character creator aspect to the next one, but everything that they have now, it's just such a great system setup for that game. And I don't think that game for zombie fans out there, I don't think it gets as much credit or attention as it probably should.
Yeah,
But
that there's a lot of like interesting gameplay loops in State of Decay that makes it unique. And Poison, thanks for being my audio tester guy. I turned it up a little bit, so let me know if this is good too. Um, yeah, there's just a lot of just little interesting things in State of Decay that makes it unique, that makes it stand out. Because when you get there's so many like actually for a while a lot of people saying the zombie genre is saturated, there's too much zombie games and things like that. I've never felt that way. I'm always like more zombies, like heck yeah. But I mean I could see what people were saying at the time. The people said that about like zombie games and also World War II games. Now I'm like,
mhm.
give me both, please. Like I love those genres. Um, but State of Decay, what I like about it is how honestly how satisfying it feels to like open your door when you're driving and hit a zombie that smack. I don't know. There's just something really satisfying about that. Like
Yeah.
honestly, every time I think about starting up State of Decay, like, ooh, that's like the first thing I want to do. But the systems when you're kind of like talking to different people and like setting up your town is just really unique. I love the way they do it in State of Decay.
Yeah.
So looking forward to how they adapt that in State of Decay 3. But that's awesome. I didn't know you were playing the second one. How have you played the online portion a bit with somebody, or are you kind of
Not
solo?
as of yet. Like I'm not quite there yet because I'm trying to build three of my like what I would consider perfect heroes. Like I have a good trader, I had a good carpenter, and just before I was able to do the last mission, that was the one that died on Nightmare. I kind of kicked myself because I did something stupid with throwing I meant to heal myself and I threw a grenade or something and it just brought all the blood zombies to me. So it was like, why did I do that? But lesson learned. Just make sure you don't carry certain things in your pocket pay attention before you hit RB.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I plan at some point when I want to try. Drucker County because I like the strip mall one, but there's two other good ones on that map. And then there's another one that I'm doing now that's I want to say it's like a brewery or something like that. That's pretty cool. And it also has like the baseball field one on it that I like. But yeah, it's such a satisfying zombie game that I don't think gets enough attention. I mean, right now there's another zombie game that I'm probably going to wind up picking up here soon, which is Dead Rising, the remaster, which that was the game when I was back on PlayStation back in the day. I had actually that was the game that was probably the one thing that was going to get me to get a 360 back in the day. Like I wanted that game on PlayStation so bad. They finally put 2 on there. I think that was the one that they put on PlayStation first, but like not State of Decay, but like Dead Rising, when that thing came out, I was like, and it's in a mall, just like Dawn of the Dead kind of thing. I was like, oh, I really want that game, but I wasn't about to get a 360 because after being a PC player and Microsoft coming out, I think at that time it was with Microsoft, it was either ME or Vista. One of those two kind of pissed me off to the point where, oh, they're making consoles. Yeah, I'm not buying that. I don't care because they made that software that I don't like for my PC. So it's like, yeah. But that was the game that almost got me. And then they put Dead Rising 2 on PlayStation. And I was like, oh, I like this. Although it looks like the setup for, Dead Rising 1, the original, was better, but I hear so many people complain about the timer and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember thinking, like, back then, because I would watch a ton of G4 TV and stuff around that time, and they talked about the crowd sizes and this. I remember thinking how next gen that was, like, to me, like oh, look how much zombies could be on the screen at one time, like, whoa. And then they started to kind of increase that in the other Dead Risings, but it became like less of a, maybe it just became less of a thing because of technology just advancing. Maybe there's like, oh, that's not as impressive anymore. To me, that's still impressive.
Oh yeah.
The fact that they can do that. And I was thinking about picking that game up. We'll see. Maybe I will pick that. I remember the bosses in Dead Rising 1 are still some of the best in the series.
Yeah.
Like, they're just so memorable. All the bosses in the first game. And the mall itself is such a good setup. I mean, them stealing that from But yeah, definitely gotta check that out. And Calorie said, aren't you scared of the permadeath? I hate to lose all my work. That's what he said.
Yeah, I've learned the hard way. Like, I have 3 awesome characters that I worked so hard to get. I finally had one that was going to be like Michonne with the sword play and everything, and did something stupid. That was the one that instead of healing, I threw a grenade or threw dynamite and then just lured all the blood zombies to me. And it was like around a black heart or something like that, like the black plague heart. And it's like, no.
If you know you're about to die, can you just like quit the game really quick? That's
I probably could have, but I think at the time I was like trying to run and I kept on getting bit, and I was like, well, now I can heal, and I switched the thing to make sure I didn't hit RB and throw another grenade and hurt myself and cause myself to be injured and stuff. And then I was like out of breath because I ran out of stamina, and I'm like, now I gotta go retrieve her stuff. So one of the other survivors has to trek there, be quiet, and I had the smoke grenades to kind of hide. I should have brought smoke grenades. That was the thing I didn't learn prior to. Instead of dynamite, I probably should have had the smoke grenades, and that would have.
I didn't even know smoke grenades was. I have to play State of Decay 2. I played the first one a lot more, but it's been a minute since I played it. Since I think I jumped back in a little bit because of the update. People saying they improved the graphics a little bit. It was a lot more playable, and then I jumped in for a little bit, like, oh, this is cool, and then I just forgot about it. Maybe go check it out. There's just so many games right now. We're definitely going to talk about like the Tokyo Game Show and stuff going on. But listen, I gotta talk about this Concord thing. We talked about it a little bit on Mav's channel. I was like, how negative do I want to be with this topic? I could be really negative. I could be a different type of 3-bit with this topic. I could be the informative 3-bit where you're just like, oh, here's what happened. But I think this topic is just so interesting because it goes into a lot of different avenues. Where this is not really, it kind of is an Xbox channel, but
Mhm.
we kind of talk about, I guess, how other companies can affect Xbox in a way.
Yeah.
So we're gonna definitely dive into the Concord conversation. So we jump straight into it. I think it's pretty interesting. Let me switch scenes here.
Mhm.
I think it's pretty interesting. So for those who aren't aware, Sony bought this development studio, Firewalk. Let me put up some of my gameplay. They bought the development studio Firewalk. They acquired the company back in April of last year. So Firewalk initially developed Concord in collaboration with a parent company called Probably Monsters. I don't know if Probably Monsters helped them with Concord after Sony developed. I think they just kind of combined after that, but I'm not.
Mhm.
I didn't see any information on that. But this was basically also around the time when they bought them, where Sony had planned around 12 live service games.
Yeah.
Most of those have been halved. Uh, Most of those are pretty much gone.
Mhm.
There's probably six or even less. I don't. I think they're all maybe. To my understanding, most of them are gone. But
There's at least four still in the chamber kind of
okay,
thing for them. Fair game, uh, obviously marathon. Um,
hmm
I
oh
don't
yeah,
know if this rumored Gran Turismo, my Gran Turismo is going to be one of them. But there is another one, like Ben Studios. Their
oh yeah,
game is
yeah,
rumored to also be another one of those games as a service. But we shall see. I think it started off with 10, then it bumped up to 12, and then it was like when Hiroki Totoki took over, it got cut in half. It was like, nope,
yeah.
5 or 6, and that's it.
Almost immediately, and most of the games in the studios have closed since then. You had their London studio completely closed down. Then you had
Mhm.
the layoffs, so 8% of their workforce, just 900 employees, was laid off. Something people forgot actually was Insomniac Games, despite doing really well, had layoffs.
Yeah.
Naughty Dog has layoffs. Fire Sprite were part of those layoffs. And then Sony shut down Japan studio. It's just a lot of
Mhm.
that happened around that same time was Concord. I think it's important to bring that up because it's like the history of how it possibly got to this point.
Mhm.
And then so for a minute, Sony just kind of been in a remaster kind of remake land. And now outside of Astrobot, this was their first big IP launch in quite some time.
Mhm.
Um, so outside of Bungie being purchased and them kind of overpaying $1.2 billion, Sony said this, by the way. They said that they felt like they overpaid.
Mhm.
And outside of that, I think this might be one of the biggest failures of a game launch in quite some time. The game Gollum had more active players at launch. The game Anthem had more players at launch. Both of those were
Yeah.
deemed as terrible, you know, terrible games. Terrible, or I think people like Anthem, but it's just
Yeah.
the player
It
count.
it it definitely died off. Like it was, I think, a content problem or roadmap problem. Like once you got to Endgame, it didn't seem like they had planned that out as well. I mean, I had fun with it. I know a lot of us in the community probably enjoyed, leveling up some of the javelins and things like that, but it wasn't as ready as at the time Destiny was. Like now, keep in mind, Vanilla Destiny was a little light on stuff as well. And the same thing even with the Division. Although I think the Division honestly was probably a little more prepared for Endgame. It's just that it was extremely hard unless you went into the dark zone, which a lot of people didn't want to do.
Yeah.
But there was some end game stuff to it, just not as much as there is like currently for all the updates they've done since. But even Bungie at that time when Anthem came out, they had content out the wazoo. In fact, they were starting to it was the beginning of them starting to vault some of the content that they had so much. So Anthem just it wasn't as well prepared. But continue.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, all good, all good. I agree, and I think okay, so from that they spent over 400 million on this game, and I'll get into that in a second, and received maybe less than 1 million. If that's not confirmed in any report or anything, I'm just kind of speculating based on the player count and based on how many people bought the game from reports and stuff. It seems like they maybe received less than $1 million, or about 1 million to less than, because people also refunded the game. So, and it shut down in less. Basically, the game shut down in less time. This is from Mav. In less time than it takes to actually the lifespan of an actual Concord grape. A Concord grape had a longer lifespan than Concord itself, which is
Wow.
insane to think about. So Colin Moriarty, a podcaster, used to be on IGN, usually known for propping up PlayStation, kind of revealed from his sources that internally Concord was looked at as a Star Wars like franchise. So this was kind of the big news. The other big news was the game's budget. So you had internally where they said like, "Oh, Concord, this is our next big thing. This is our Star Wars." The other big news was the game's budget, and then sprinkled in there, Colin kind of talked about how the language that they're allowed to use internally with the game's development, like it was supposed to be like this positivity kind of thing. I don't know too much about that. Maybe you can dive into that when I pass it to you. But yeah, regardless, I mean, Sony so far is seemingly spending like so much money on their games with very little return, in my opinion. Or to like Spider-Man 2, for example, cost $315 million to develop, and according to WN Hub, Insomniac Games has big plans for Spider-Man 3, and the studio intends to spend $385 million on the next game.
Wow.
So I thought the second one was insane. And so normally I want to explain how this usually works. When you have like a sports game, the reason why EA tends to reuse the same assets yearly for their Madden games is because it saves time, which in turn saves money. And with Spider-Man, the reason why I'm always talking about it, like how confusing it is because you already have the city built, you have the animation systems in place, you're kind of reusing a lot of the same animations. Like if you play Spider-Man 1, play Spider-Man 2, you'll see the same animations here and there. So most of the time, what you're kind of telling me is most of the time is going into mocap for the cutscenes and things like that, and possibly QA testing the game, which is insane. You're saying that's $350 million worth? Sure. Yeah. So getting back to Concord, insane. A lot of things there. I want to know your thoughts, Fuzzy. I want to know what you think about Colin's statements. So Colin's statements was basically like, hey, they spent 400 million, which is more than Spider-Man, by the way. It's more than most of Sony's IP. Now, to be fair, a lot of people did say that that Sony spent 200 million, and then that they possibly spent 200 million before acquiring, which added up to the 400 million, possibly.
Because I think Colin made mention that may not include the acquisition costs. So I don't know if they were picked up for another 100 mil or what, but man, somebody ran away with the purse strings on that one. And it sounds like Herman Hulst is kind of the one left holding the bag kind of deal. And just hearing Colin talk about it, it's like, I remember when he would go on his tirades about why did Microsoft purchase Ninja Theory and stuff like that? And it's like, why did PlayStation or why did Sony purchase, Firewalk? I get when you're close to the fire, things look brighter kind of deal. And if Herman Hulse is to kind of be the one that may have been championing that notion that this is the future of PlayStation and that this could be a Star Wars level franchise, if tell me if I'm wrong, like looking at the initial trailer, if this was more of like a Guardians of the Galaxy but co-op, and you're going on these missions to find these artifacts or what have you, I think that may have had more success than a 5v5 hero shooter kind of thing.
For sure.
So I could see that referencing of being Star Wars like, because I think that would have sold, but maybe because of that toxic positivity that is being talked about, as far as you can't really criticize either the character models or certain decisions, which in the business world, I've kind of been in those scenarios where your boss's boss or the big boss is the one saying, "Oh yeah, this is how we're going to do things, and this is exactly how I want them." And even though probably the most like new employee could see some of this stuff might not be the best for sales or whatever the case may be, dare they say anything different than what the big boss is saying as far as this project or this job that has to be completed in a certain amount of time. Like I've seen situations where the pricing structure on a new product that we were introducing, was way lower margin than what we probably could have gotten. But I like my job, so I'm not going to argue with the guy that signs the check. Say, maybe we should add a few more points on this, make sure we make 35 points instead of 15 points that this is currently priced at and stuff. But yeah, I just feel that it was a matter of no one being willing enough to risk their neck or their job to put that out there or put themselves on the line and say something different than what they're being instructed to do. And like I said, being in that situation in the past, there are times I've stuck my neck out, and luckily I did enough research prior to make sure I had at least facts and figures to back stuff up. And I wound up being, ultimately right, but it didn't win me any brownie points with that individual in the long term. So it's you might win the one battle, but you ain't winning the war, and you can kill your career on smaller or lesser things. So I get that maybe nobody wanted to step up and say, hey, maybe these characters should get a freshening up, something a little more modern. We see how well Stellar Blade is doing, or something to that effect. And maybe that could have helped things a little bit in a certain area. Or maybe we should focus on this being a co-op type of thing. Like we see how well Helldivers 2 did, and that's co-op. It's not really PvP, although I know we probably want to eventually, move into the PvP because that could be potentially a bigger winner as far as player base. But I think this notion of it being like a Guardians of the Galaxy co-op experience, that we have these updated stories or movies, and we're going to do this TV series thing and all that in the future. That might be the way to kind of start it up. That should be the
There's
first
about to be
try.
a Concord TV show thing.
Yeah,
that's still happening. So yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
But that just seems like that should have been maybe the approach they should have taken. But once again, you're not going to convince the guy that signs the check or the guy that's just below the guy that signs the check to do something different than what they want to do. You just kind of say, yeah, all right, this is what you want. All right, how's this? Do you need me to touch up anything? I mean, you could try. I mean, like I said, I've seen it where you can manipulate things and be like, oh, here's something that you that you said you wanted, but I just want to try these things, and maybe something strikes out, or maybe we can incorporate this, or this seemed to work on this game. I just this was just extra thing, but here's the exactly what you wanted. But take a look at these and see if these might be of interest, kind of thing, for character models or some of the stuff being thought of. But just the sheer amount of money and time that was involved in this, and once again, I know some people like Tom Henderson is like, hey, it might only be one source, and we know Moriarty is going to probably be a good, even though he's not quote unquote technically a journalist, but he's as close as you can get between a journalist and a developer type of deal with the company he's running and stuff. But I would assume that he's done his due diligence to make sure that the information is accurate. So with that being said, if this thing really costs $400 million, whether that's incorporating the acquisition costs or the advertising and marketing and everything that they were putting forth with this, I promise you, for half that, actually for that same amount of money, they could have put that into factions and put that into the Spider-Verse, and it definitely gotten a much better return than what they got out of Concord. Like they could have probably burned half of the money at Las Vegas or Atlantic City and
Got a better return than
got a better return out of it. But it goes to show that no one is immune to failure, which I guess to some extent is a good thing, because hopefully this is a learning or turning point for Sony in the sense of not to completely, get out of the games as a service. I don't want them to do that. I still want them to give a good college try or good college effort in it. But maybe the voices that were the loudest, maybe they take a seat back and let the devs kind of do what they're best at doing, or maybe let them guide a few things. Because I'm pretty sure, just like we've heard, like after the Helldivers 2 blew up, you heard some of those that have worked on Halo in the past or currently working on Halo, like, hey, yeah, we pitched something similar. Maybe there's something similar going on at other Sony studios, like the people that were working on factions. Maybe they saw things like the day before and like, yeah, we could do better than that and have a home run out of this if we just do these things, or at least put this out there and have the community guide us on where they would want us to take this, or feedback in reference of if this is what they want or if this isn't far enough, kind of thing. But just as a fan of gaming in general, yes, I'm more of an Xbox guy, but I also own a PlayStation 5 and been on PlayStation ever since they've been around. The only PlayStation I didn't have was the PlayStation 2, which I was all PC at that point. But still, it just feels like Sony lost their soul, I guess, about the best way to put it. Whether it's the cost cutting measures or bean counters, Hiroki Chitoki being the CFO, when you have the money guy at the head of the table, there's going to be different decisions, and we kind of speculates to some extent that some of that might be occurring at Microsoft, but there's so much other stuff going on at Microsoft that I don't think even the money man can really ruin things as bad as what's going on at Sony at this point. Like, I think the money men or at least on the Xbox side of things, are looking at the health and well-being of the brand or for shareholders long term. So they're not killing the business, but it almost feels like Sony in a way is killing itself by going headfirst into the industry that they're not as familiar with, as far as what games as a service that is, and then having something like Bungie be their guiding light, and they weren't even the greatest. I mean, some people will say they're the greatest as far as for a first person shooter, but as far as live service, they were one of the good ones, if not one of the better ones out there.
Not relying on a game like this, where this is our Star Wars, this is our guiding light into a successful live service game, or using this game as an example for the future of their company, kind of like what they were doing for Helldivers 2 as well. There's so many examples of successful Xbox live service games. It's not the money men's mission is different from what Xbox is doing compared to PlayStation. With Xbox, it's more so like, yeah, you've proven you can do live service games, but how much money can we get? You know, like with Halo, the people that they a lot of people the mentality around Halo. We actually talked about this on Xbox Ultimate. Um, the mentality around Halo is that it's a failure, right? Uh, which is weird. So if you were to backtrack and look at the reviews for Halo Infinite, it was very positive.
Mhm.
A lot of people loved Halo. It was more so like months and months after where people was like, "Where's the content? Where's
Yeah.
the that's kind of where the failure of Halo Infinite has come from. But if you're talking about in terms of sales, Halo Infinite actually sold better than Halo 4 and 5 combined. And then you
Yeah.
look at the microtransactions it's making per year, it's insane. It's definitely made more than Concord. I
Yeah.
forgot the number. I believe it was like almost five, or maybe it was like 300 million or something in microtransactions or something like that.
Mhm.
Point is, it's profitable. It's making
Yes.
money to a game that people deem a failure. Um, so when you look at games like that, you look at games like Sea of Thieves that makes a ton of money. Um, something Xbox does really well is build on what's already there.
Mhm.
They make sure. I mean, if you look at what Sea of Thieves was when it first launched to now, it's a completely different game.
Yeah.
Completely different game. It's like very like I remember I played it at E3. I remember playing with the I was talking to the Rare team like, "Hey, we want to do all this stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, okay, good, okay, cool."
Mhm.
But they did it. They did a lot of what they set out to do, and Xbox slash Microsoft, something I will give credit to them for is they will continue to support that game. If you want a successful live service game, I can't look at Sony realistically right now and be like, whatever live service game they have, even if it's successful, I can't trust that that game will last because they like to dip their toe in and see if something is successful, and if it's not, they're out, they're
Yeah.
gone. So that's the difference in mentality between the money men at Microsoft and Sony's. Microsoft can afford to do things at another level. Like
Yeah.
they can afford to, like, okay, let's try this. This didn't work. Let's try this. This didn't work. Sony is not that $1 trillion company. So that's
No.
when you really are looking at the differences between the companies. Um, is they're playing at a different level. Like Xbox is playing at a level where they are profitable. How can we be more profitable?
Mhm.
And Sony's kind of like, I want to try this because this is the future of our brand type of
Mhm.
mentality. Um, so we'll see. But there's a couple comments I wanted to get through, um, and I definitely want to hear more of your thoughts because I don't know if you're finished. You were hitting on it. So Calorie says Concord still has a chance if the secret level TV show episode takes off. If they are smart, they will release it in PS Plus the day that episode comes out. What do you say to Calorie there?
I think he's on to something. Like we've seen evidence of how like that transmedia between like TV and or movies and games can really energize a player base for that game. We've seen it with Cyberpunk. We've seen it with Fallout. And I'm sure there are a lot of others. Like it's just that we may not have had the game right away or a recent edition of that game to go with like Castlevania and things like that. But overall, that's something that can definitely help. They may have been better off delaying that game until that TV show would have been ready, and then just kind of work on the characters. Like they had to have heard some of the feedback from the fan base that, and we saw some of the images where the lady that's wearing the Tupperware helmet didn't really inspire any people to be like, yeah, that's the character I want to use.
Yeah.
Compared to what some people were designing on their own or using, generative AI to generate something a little bit more interesting. And it doesn't have to always be the sex appeal aspect, but sometimes that helps. And if the character doesn't have anything else going for them as far as like backstory or lore, go with what sells. I mean, not saying sex always sells, but it kind of does. And I, I think they could have taken a little bit more time on some of those things, whether it's the feedback from the devs or feedback from the fans. I think they should have given this more time before release, considering they weren't seeing the numbers of interest for the beta weekends. Like that should have been the sign that either we haven't gotten enough of the word out or this ain't it. Like we missed the mark. And I don't know what focus groups or if they even use focus groups. Like, I hope this is not breaking NDA, but Microsoft seems to be ones that are all about focus groups. Like, if you give a game a rating, or if you add it to a wish list, or if you keep on like adding it to cart and stuff like that, every now and
They
then
did focus groups on
put...
Sony games. Like, I remember they did one for Last of Us, saying how amazing Last of Us was and how they haven't gotten to that level of development. I remember them saying that.
But yeah, with Sony, I don't know if they do surveys for their fans or of their fans. Like I said, I've been with PlayStation before I even bought my first Xbox, up until like, was it the basically Xbox One generation. And I don't ever remember getting a survey. And it's like, I guess they just follow the money. So if, oh, this game sold well, so we'll make it, again, or remake it, or make another one in that series. And that's as good as it goes. But like with Xbox, it's like, oh, you bought Horizon 1, 2, 3, and 4. Hey, we're going to send you a survey on Horizon 5. Hey, we're going to send you a survey. Well, like I said, I don't think this is an NDA, but what would you think if Horizon 6 or a future series was, at this location, or if this feature or mode was in it? And it's like, I always get those things because it's like, well, I play that game a lot, or I buy that game. So yeah, I mean, Ubisoft even does it. Like, I've gotten surveys for The Division and other things relating to like Ghost Recon. Like, certain studios, I guess, or certain publishers seem to at least take in the feedback, even if they don't actually follow or quote unquote listen and address those things. But I've seen that they have at least something out there that they try to get feedback from the fans. But it doesn't seem like Sony does that all that well. Like, clearly, the whole thing with Helldivers 2 with the PSN login, that didn't go over very well. And they kind of listened, but then they were like, oh, by the way, oh, you're in a country where PSN is not available, so your game's not available. Here's your refund. I mean, they don't normally give refunds, so I guess that's a good thing.
Heard there's
some people got their money
similar
back, but
backlash on the new God of War Ragnarok
yeah,
as well. Yeah, 100%, man. The thing with Concord that I didn't understand when you were talking about the focus groups is, how could you look at the beta numbers and be like, yeah, release it? Like, I just from the beta to the release, that would have been the time where I'm looking at the numbers where I would have, well, to be fair, I think the beta numbers did have higher player counts than the release.
Not a lot higher, but they were high. They were definitely higher.
Yeah. But even then, that was really low. So even then, I would have been like, okay, these numbers aren't what I'm not very good. Maybe we should course correct and do something different. Maybe they were hoping that people was just going to invest based on the positive feedback from the media, people loving Concord and stuff like that. That didn't work out. What, honestly, it's so weird to me. Like, maybe we're just looking at it from the outside, but to me it's really obvious, and it's probably a little bit what you're saying. Like, the higher ups have this vision for what they want the game to be. All the people under them, they probably are seeing things. They're like, I don't think this is gonna work, but they don't want to say anything because I've seen that a lot in work, so I can totally see that becoming a thing $400 million later. But it's just so crazy to me when you're entering a market. Maybe this is just because this game was developed for 8 years.
Yeah.
So back then, 8 years ago, the hero shooter was less of a thing.
Mhm.
It was like just kind of entering the market. Overwatch was becoming a thing. You started getting
Mhm.
more genres of like stuff like what Fortnite. Fortnite was trying to be a horde shooter type game when it first came out. It's weird to
Mhm.
think about now, but even Fortnite was finding itself. Um, but that was 8 years ago. So they took 8 years to develop a game where 8 years ago this game could have worked. Maybe eight
Mhm.
years ago. But now you are entering a market that is very saturated. People are comfortable in their hero shooters.
Yeah.
It's called a hero shooter because you can become your hero and you could stick with that hero. You have your
Mhm.
main, was people say like, "Oh, this is my
Yeah.
main," right? So people are comfortable in the shooters that they're playing in. So if you really want to entice people, make the dang game free.
Mhm.
And they decided to be Sony, which is to charge for everything, double charge because we're the premium brand, and people will come regardless of what we
Yeah.
say or do. And that mentality is probably going to hurt them for the PS5 Pro, as it's going to hurt them with Concord. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. We could talk about that, but honestly, yeah. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, yeah, the price of entry on that genre at this point, like 8 years ago, like you said, charge $40. I mean, Overwatch, I think, was a $60 game when it launched, or maybe it was 40 before it went free to play later on with Overwatch 2. But if they set the target then and didn't pay attention to how the market shifted, where you have to lure people from the game that they may have already paid for, or the one that now is free to play that's popular, with another free to play. Like, you make your money off the microtransactions, you make your money off the skins. But then again, this could have been like a bad data situation. Like, I always joke about the DVR thing with fix the DVR for Xbox. And well, why would they fix it if nobody uses it? Well, nobody uses it because it's not working
Yeah.
properly, kind of thing. Maybe they were like, well, we're not going to do free to play because we need to make money off of this game. And well, typically you make money off of the skins, but then again, if you don't make interesting characters to put the skins on, then how are you going to sell skins on? I wouldn't say a blob, but if the lady's wearing a Tupperware helmet,
Yeah.
really, or like trash bags kind of looking thing, like if it
Yeah.
was done ironically, like, oh, they literally were like the trash monster and had trash bags on, or they were drunk and fell into a thing of Tupperware. Maybe that could work. But if you're trying to appeal to a customer base where they're looking at something like Overwatch 2, and let's be real, some of those characters look like they fell straight out of an anime type of thing. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe the signals got mixed, and I don't want to say, oh well, it's the diversity inclusion. I mean, you can still have inclusion, you can still have diversity, and still have attractiveness. You can still have interesting character models and things along those lines. Like, there are plenty of games that do it well, and you may not even really notice it because it doesn't seem like the characters are uninteresting. It seems like there's more to the character, that either there's that side of mystery that intrigues you, or there's that, oh, that character looks cool. I like what they're wearing, or I like how the weapons or the moves that they have for that move set. So it just, I don't know.
Yeah.
This whole situation, not just with Concord, but Sony as of recent, just boggles my mind. Like, it doesn't feel like the Sony that I used to enjoy, where it's like, hey, Resistance, Fall of Man, hey, mixed aliens in World War II. I mean,
Yeah. The Sony
that was
that
a
we
crazy enough
knew
concept back then that
growing
it's
up
like,
is gone.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe they should give it a try again, or killer cars that have weapons or kill each other with weapons on cars or vehicles. like a Destruction Derby, which they tried Destruction All Stars, and that was, I think they went too cartoony or too silly with it. They should have went more so for like blood, guts, and gore and bullets type of thing, as opposed to just bumper cars and goofy looking characters. But yeah, and then the Spider Verse thing, like, come on, like I know a lot of people will say, oh, there's no guarantee a Spider Verse game would work because people would get bored, but it's like the skins, people would buy the skins. Like if you can be anybody in the Spider Verse,
right
or yeah, anybody, like the same people that are like, oh, I don't play Fortnite, or that they play Fortnite, but I don't buy all the skins. And then you look and they got like a collection of 30 skins. Really? You don't buy skins? You got Spider-Man, you got Master Chief, you got, Kratos, but you don't buy skins. Okay. Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
we know that there are some people that don't buy skins, but there are plenty of those that would. And it's
Yeah.
like they have a whole catalog of IP that they could, constantly mix into that, where you could play as Ratchet and Clank, or you could play as Infamous or something along those lines from Second Son, or just anything. Like it just feels like Sony said, you know what, we're not going to take any more risk. We're just going to remaster stuff. This Concord game, the Bungie guys said this looks good. We don't know if they're trying to sabotage us or if they don't know any better. We'll find out later when this guy stops buying cars. But yeah, it just feels like and I'm probably going to get on my soapbox now. I feel like blaming the gaming media for having the kid gloves with Sony. Like they should have been more critical sooner. Like, don't be like, yeah, The Last of Us 2 remastered without factions. Yeah, that's what I want. Or even Last of Us 1 remastered without factions. Like you should have said something then. Like you should have been like, hey, is factions
I mean, they were
coming?
doing
When
with
is it
this,
coming?
like-
Oh, we got concept art.
They were basically
What's
saying with
concept art?
Concord, saying like, oh, it's a failure, but here's why is this still a great game, and why great games are punished nowadays. And I'm just like, what in the world? Like the way the media can turn things around is always really interesting to me when it comes to Sony in particular. But honestly, to me, it comes down to two things that they failed at. Like internally, or the market should have been like sure. What is it? Was it a fun game to play? A lot of people said that played it. They're like, yeah, it was really fun. But internally, what they should have done is read the market, done market research, being like, hey, we got Apex out there, Apex Legends, we got Overwatch. We got all these games. They have way more content than us because they've been around for many years and they are free. So the entry to those games are way easier. And we are asking customers to just try Concord. It was $40. Right? Was it 40? Basically asking people to pay money for a game that is within that same genre, the hero shooter kind of genre. Yeah, that was just a bad decision. And honestly, that internally that was a failure. And then the second thing I would say was a failure is the character designs and stuff like that. Sort of switch the genre, honestly. If people, you're making all these interesting, what I think are interesting trailers about the universe, the story. I honestly hate when I see interesting pieces of story content and then I play the game, you can't experience any of it. And it's just, it's like, why even show me? Overwatch did that nonsense too, honestly. Not a fan of that. And I see a couple people in chat talking about my Gears of War. Listen, my Gears of War, if you let me direct Gears of War, I will make sure to have Marcus Phoenix be a teenager so we can get that Gen Z sort of teenage audience. He's going to argue with his mom about the locusts, or maybe we need him to write in his diary.
They're being mean to him.
They're being mean to him. I'll make it so you guys can like look at your diary of your inner thoughts. We need more of that in Gears of War. We need more relatability, according to our market research, right? So vote for me for president, and I will make sure to add that to the next Gears of War collection.
A young, moody Marcus Phoenix. Okay,
that's what we need. Maybe some eye makeup, some dark music, all the things.
Oh man,
my mom, hate my mom. Well, at the goatee at the end, he has a little bit. He grows it out over the course. Sees like a statue, someone else having it. Got to be inspired. See, it's all up here. It's all up there. Any last thoughts on Concord, man?
Just that I hope this is not a lighthearted lesson learned by Sony. I don't want them to give up on games as a service, but I do want them to listen to the fans that have spent money as opposed to just the gaming media that's looking for the next free, game code to review. Make the games that you canceled, like they could be half-assed at this point, and I guarantee you they'll still do better than what than what Concord did. And Lord help Jade Raymond with Fair Game. Like,
yeah,
they better be like trying to figure out how to make that more like GTA Online than Payday 3. Not that anything is wrong with Payday 3, but if they're going to copy, I think GTA 5 would be the better one to copy. Like, put apartments in there, put cars, put clothes, put all that flashy stuff that you can sell shark cards or I guess fair game cards for. And maybe you can, recoup some of your investment. Because I don't know if Sony, and I'm not saying they're going bankrupt or they'll disappear, but I don't know if Sony can withstand another Concord and not do stuff that will just piss off their fan base even more. Like, I think the next Concord that comes from them makes it so PC day and date, like I know a lot of their fans are like, oh, it's not happening except for on games as a service. No, I think they'll have to go that route. I think they'll have to rethink their PSN logins, like you said, with the God of War Ragnarok. I think they'll have to look at certain things that they're not doing or that they refuse to do in the past and reconsider. And maybe this is Xbox's ultimate plan. Like, they're the ones testing the water, and I know some people are like, "Oh, Xbox is pissing off the console base." They're I wouldn't say they're moving away from the console base. They're moving beyond the console base in the sense that they want to make sure that they're not just focused on one market. They have PC. They can get into mobile even further, and if they can blur the lines with a handheld that's a console PC or PC console or however you want to look at it, that's the way to go. And I think Sony will have to get that kind of creative and that ahead of the curve, or not really ahead of the curve, but follow the footsteps a lot sooner than the current Sony fan base is willing to accept or tolerate. But
yeah,
thank the gaming media for not holding their feet to the fire and being the remaster station and remaster console and remaster of a remaster that's not even 5 years old kind of thing.
Yeah, we're now in a state where, I mean, the gaming media for so long is kind of excused Sony's mishaps, where we're getting another remake for Horizon Zero Dawn. We're getting another one for what's that zombie game with the motorcycle?
Oh, Days Gone.
Days Gone. And something's telling me they're not done. I have a feeling they're gonna do like Last of Us Part 2. None of these need remakes, remasters. These games look great. Honestly, you could just do what Xbox has been doing. Free update for a game, where you just like put the ray tracing in there, update it, but they don't want to do that because they want you to pay for it.
I mean, like, even if they extended the olive branch to make it so it's like, all right, $5 or $10 upgrades like before if you already own the game. But if you're a first time buyer for, let's say, The Last of Us 2 remastered or Days Gone remastered, don't charge 70, charge, 30 or 40. I mean, I think at that point their fan base would be more accepting, because they could look and say, well, I do like the upgraded look, so I can either pay the upgrade fee or be like, you know what, I don't necessarily need it, but hey, it's great that they're releasing it for those, and it's not like it's a full price game, like they expect us to be hit over the head again, kind of thing for it. So
Yeah. I mean,
they're in a weird spot.
It's just such an interesting spot for Sony to be in right now, where for years they relied so much on third party deals to kind of foster up their whenever first party would be down, they focus on third party, et cetera, et cetera. But now these first party studios, they had the 8% of layoffs, and ever since then, not a lot in their pipeline. So I am wondering what their future looks like as a company, where they're going to pivot, because Hiroki Totoki is not playing around. He wants to make sure that these companies make money. So Jim Ryan's way of doing that, I still think was the correct way based on how much money they could potentially make from live service games. I still think his way, it is a band-aid situation. It's not like foolproof, but they're in this situation, so they honestly need to pivot and have that successful live service game. That's just my opinion. I think the reason why Jim Ryan wanted to do it is because he was reading the tea leaves of saying, like, hey, for a while PlayStation has focused on these single player action adventure type stories that takes like 4 or 5 years to develop. That's not really financially feasible, especially as people don't tend to consistently reinvest in those games over and over, unless maybe you had some skins or something, but most of those games don't have skins or any sort of microtransaction. You play the game, you buy the game, and you're kind of just done. But when you play a game like Halo, or you play a game like Apex Legends, Overwatch, you're consistently returning to that game. You're reinvesting and reinvesting. Sony doesn't have that. And the fact that they put so much money into more so appearance, making sure that, like, oh, this game can't come to other platforms, so we appear to be the brand, and they've done that for years, to the point where companies like Square Enix, who's been doing it since they've probably been paying Square Enix, I don't even know how long, how many generations, but they've been doing it for a while, to the point where Square Enix is like, yeah, I don't see the benefit of doing this anymore. So how many other companies are going to start doing that as well, where they just are reading the market, like Xbox is kind of reading it and just being like, it actually helps us to just put our games in as much places as possible. How many other studios are going to start to see that mentality before Sony? Will Sony be behind in that regard? Maybe. I feel like in a lot of ways Sony still has an old mentality of the market. I do think Hiroki Totoki is seeing that, and he's trying to make changes. But right now they're not in a good position, in my opinion. But I'm sure they're going to have a dream show soon. I really want to see that soon, because how many years have I been saying like, oh, dream show's coming, or how many people have said, like, oh, this is the year of the showcase. It's been like 3-4 showcases or something that Sony's had, and they've all been awful.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to be very optimistic about Sony. I want to be optimistic about Xbox, Nintendo. Sure, I like seeing all three be what they're meant to be. But right now, Sony is not the company that people have known them to be. The reason, like, why people are propping them up, they're propping up the old PlayStation in my eyes. Like, they are consistently just making the same like they look at the IPs that they have and they're focusing on like 4 or 5, and then the rest are dead. So we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing. It's sad because they have so many like cool IP that I would like to see return. A lot of like for example, Insomniac, who used to work on a couple different Sony IPs, they can't work on that right now because they're tied up in Marvel. They're the Marvel studio now, so they're not gonna be able to work on their IPs and things like that. So I don't know. We'll see. I love Santa Monica. I love Naughty Dog. I think those are super talented studios. So that's kind of the only studio I'm really looking at right now in Sony. But we'll see. We will see. Let's read some of the chat, and then we'll jump into the second topic, which is Tokyo. So see what you guys got. Ricardo says it's easy to control the media narrative when one company owns most of the gaming media. Facts. Yeah, that is facts. I remember there was so many. There was this guy who used to work for like this website or something, and I remember him having a negative Sony review, and he was blacklisted for everything. Like he couldn't go to events. He was like blacklisted. So Sony does not play around if you have a negative review of their game. It's actually really interesting. You don't hear much about it because kind of what he just said, a lot of the media is tied to Sony in some regard. Which is so weird. Yeah, but that's just the way it is. Psychonaut says 30th anniversary PlayStation stuff is going to kill the website. Listen, Sony, that's something. Sony is smart as heck when it comes to like kind of fooling their audience. That PlayStation looks awesome. I will admit the PS5 Pro, where it's kind of looks like the older PlayStations, that's going to shut down the website for sure. And yeah, that's going to be interesting. A lot of scalpers are waiting for the PS5 Pro, so
I'm pretty sure some of them have already stocked up on the external CD, so or the external Blu-ray or whatever it is. So it's if they're only making 12,000 of them, like good luck. I hope you already have your bot program or bot script already written and ready to go. And you've already like logged into the website and have it where the script knows to do the full login or keep you logged in and all that stuff. Because, man,
that's gonna.
But then again, I don't know. With the PlayStation site, are they going to go based off of games played and hours played? Because they kind of did that a bit. And I know I didn't get like the first round, but by the time like I was on the second round, I already had my PS5, so it was like, screw you guys.
Yeah, I got my PS5 on launch day. That's the PS5 I still have. I have the launch day PS5. It's dusty right now. I haven't played it in a while, but I remember as soon as the website launched or something, you needed an account or something. I forgot how it worked, but it was something like that. You needed an account, and then I was in the queue, and then I got it almost immediately. I got really lucky because all my friends who was trying to get it around that time, they were like, people scalped it immediately. Yeah, that's gonna happen with this one, especially if they're making only 12,000. That is not a lot. So you can guarantee that will be scalped.
If somebody was smart, although I know that there's legality involved, but if somebody does get a hold of one of those, they need to take the panels off, send them somewhere to get scanned so they can do 3D print and sell the knockoff panels. But like, do it on the down low, like do it on like, what is that? The Etsy or something.
Oh yeah.
Be like, original gray PS coverings, or just call it something so it's not like. I know Etsy can quickly shut down your store, but
Do it before the
They
shutdown.
can, as long as they don't say officially the 30th anniversary, I'm pretty sure
Say
people would
say like
still pay a couple
31st.
hundred.
There you
Yeah,
go.
just yeah, people will still pay probably a couple hundred just for those shells.
If I was rich, I would just buy all 12,000. What they gonna do? Like you want you want a PS5 Pro? You have to come to me. Honestly, that's what I would do. And I bet you, I'm probably not even the first one to tell that.
Well, no, somebody's going to do something like that. They'll have like they'll have just like they did when the PS5 first came out. They'll have a whole garage full of them. Like that looks like that dude has 30 PS5s. No, actually, it's 60. Don't worry about it. I got another 60 on the way. Like, I got half of the 12,000 already on order.
Yep. You already know that's coming. I've never seen, with my human eyes, I've never seen a PS5 digital. Never. Which is great. I haven't seen it in a GameStop. I haven't seen it at Walmart, anywhere. Like
I've seen one or a couple of them at a Walmart recently. Like,
oh yeah,
and it's weird. Like, I don't need anything out of the gaming aisle because I buy most of my games digitally anyway. So it's like I already have all the hardware. But it's like, oh, I see they got 5 regular PS5s and 2 digitals. And then you look over at Xbox, there's like maybe 1 or 2 Series X. I didn't see any Series S at this Walmart.
Wow.
So I don't. It's like the middle of Pennsylvania. Well, not middle, but it's like northeast part of Pennsylvania. So it's not like near major cities. It looks like the Xbox aisle was less stocked, but not like they intentionally less stocked it. It's like more stuff was sold from it. I can't really speak to the income level of that area, but it's like if the Series S is gone and only 2 Series X's are left, but there's 5 PS5 disc ones and only 2 digitals, and it looks like they were filled to the gill, like there was no gap, like one was missing over on the PlayStation side, but you could see where there was a couple of Series X's missing and where the Series S should have been. That was just one Walmart, but it was a huge Walmart. It's like bigger than the one that's out my way. So it was like one of the super centers where it's like bigger than a city block kind of thing. So,
and Psychonauts, who works at GameStop, is saying GameStop is making the stands and disc drive pro membership only.
Oh wow,
interesting. And he says GameStop, we had 3 digital to 18 regular consoles.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I've
so that makes sense.
Personally, I've never seen one, so I can't confirm it exists. But no, I've never seen a PS5 digital console. But in my Walmart, I've seen like this when I went in the aisle. There was like 3 Series X's, and the rest were empty. There was a bunch of PS5s. It was like 20 or something, just like kind of just standing there, and there was like 1 Series S, and then you could see where the Series S's are supposed to be. It was just completely gone. So Series S seems to be the hot topic or whatever. But I mean, here's the thing: if we're talking about console sales, PlayStation does very well, but Series S is a little machine that kicks butt. Does pretty good. A lot of people like the Series S. Let's go to the second topic. Let me put up my screen here. There we go. So the Tokyo Game Show. Overall, I'm not sure what to really expect. So I'm going to read a little article from Xbox titled Asian Games in the Spotlight. So this is an article they released. It's from Larissa Hazel on the Xbox Wire. The Xbox Tokyo Game Show 2024 broadcast returns on Thursday, September 26th at 7 p.m. So it's coming up. We warmly welcome players around the world to tune in as we share content from Xbox Game Studios, Activision, Blizzard Entertainment, and Bethesda. We'll also showcase an exciting lineup of games from third-party partners, primarily based in Japan and across Asia, including games coming to Xbox Game Pass. This year's broadcast will be available on Tokyo Game Show official YouTube channel. It's going to be available in all these different languages. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. For one, what I liked to see in these shows, it will show like some footage we may have seen before. For example, let's just say like Indiana Jones or something.
Mhm.
We've probably seen some of these footage before, but then it will randomly do like this new footage. Like it'll be like Indiana Jones in a car and he's like whipping people or something like that. Like what the heck? Where did that come from? So you never
Mhm.
really know what to expect in these type of shows. But I am excited to kind of dive into because it said Blizzard, Bethesda. The only thing I know that Bethesda's really working on right now is the Starfield and I guess Indiana Jones. So of course they're
Yeah.
working like other like Elder Scrolls Online and things like that. But in terms of like what could be at this show, most likely Indiana Jones, right? That's coming
Hmm.
out soon. And then maybe some Elder
Shattered
Scrolls.
Space.
Yeah,
Well, actually,
Shattered
Shattered
Space.
Space is wait, did that's already dropped, isn't it? Or is that the 30th? Or
I thought it was the 30th, but let
okay,
me
so
see.
yeah.
Shattered Space. That will be yeah, that's the 30th.
Okay.
So yeah, Shattered Space will probably be there. Pretty cool. Something I've talked about in the past is like I wonder what Xbox's plans are in Japan in general
Hmm.
because they're making a new console. We know Sarah Bond has a hard as heck job in that, by the way, because she has to
Hmm.
make a console that is incentivizing players to want to jump into the Xbox ecosystem, while they also know that those games can be available on other consoles and things like that. So how do you convince new people to jump into the Xbox ecosystem if if you know that they might want to offer it on other ecosystems? That's the problem that Sarah Bond will have to figure out,
Hmm.
and that's why I think it'll be a handheld and things like that. But
Oh yeah.
in terms of like the Tokyo Game Show, the first kind of internal thought I had was Xbox, the old Xbox pre Xbox to Bethesda acquisition is different from this Xbox.
Yeah.
We we don't know because in the past I could have said, oh, Phil Spencer had statements about how they want to increase their Japanese presence and things like that. I honestly I don't know what is still the case or not. So it was really cool to start to see articles on this where
Hmm.
they seemingly will have a pretty decent presence here. But I would be amiss to not mention that because um, maybe their focus going forward is like, hey, we're going to support Japanese studios and stuff like that. We're focusing more on third party partnerships. Maybe that's the way they're going forward because
Yeah.
we've seen things with Capcom. They talked about partnerships with Capcom. They talked about Square Enix. We've heard rumors that Square Enix will be at this show. That's going to be
Mhm.
my highlight probably. Just because I'm just really interested in that. Because I've moved away from Final Fantasy franchise. I was just like I was just tired of okay, that was a pretty cool game. Let me play the next one, and it's not on Xbox. So like, why would I
Yeah.
bother, investing in the franchise when they have their toe in? Didn't make sense for me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thoughts. Like the Tokyo show, I'm excited for. I'm excited to see snippets of games maybe we've already seen, maybe more news on. I'm interested in seeing their partnerships. And maybe that is the way they're going. It's hard for me to predict this Xbox compared to the past Xbox, honestly. Like, I could really in the past be like, oh, yeah, this is what Phil said in an interview. This is their plan. No idea. No idea with this
Mhm.
Xbox. So what are your thoughts, Fuzz, on Tokyo Game Show? What are you kind of thinking? What are you excited
Well,
about? All the things.
oh, I'm excited for a few things, and I know that there's no mention here, but I'm hoping we get a little bit more of a taste of OD from Kojima. I think, and it's mainly because I know that this was originally started as a Stadia project, and because Xbox has a awesome cloud, set up with Azure, I would assume that there would have been more of like a hit the ground running kind of thing. So there shouldn't necessarily be as much development time. I know it seems like Death Stranding 2 is kind of around the corner, but I would have to believe OD is not too far off.
Well,
I was always under the impression maybe it comes out before Death Stranding 2, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I would like to see a little bit more of that, because it was so interesting seeing like people analyze the video as far as like the letters in the mouth and the reflection in the eyes and things like that. So considering the wildness of some of the stuff that Kojima puts in games, it'd be nice to see what other things we can analyze in an updated video clip. Um, Considering all the trips that Phil and Sarah have made to Japan over the past 5 or 6 years, I would like to see at least one, if not two games. And I feel they probably have more than this, because we kind of saw that with, it wasn't 33 Immortals, but it was that 33 um existence or something, like I can't remember
yeah,
what it was, but that it was almost like a traditional RPG type of deal, where it was like not stop motion, but it was like the different like stop or like turn based type of deal, but it was more of a fluid style turn based, almost like the way Persona is to some extent. So that game came out of nowhere, although I don't think it's from Japan. I think it might be
Expedition
I think
33
that one's actually
is what Tony said.
yeah. So I think that something along those lines that just catches us off guard. I'm hoping there's at least one, if not two of those, but from some of those studios that they said that they've partnered with over the past few years, that they've flown out to and have, built the relationship with. And I know things may have gotten a little bit soured with the whole thing with Tango Gameworks and stuff, but they're able to live on through the other company that acquired them. And I know that there was some stuff like, well, we may not make our money back, but they could definitely use them for future projects.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
There's still that possibility that Xbox can still partner with them, much like they did with Toys for Bob. So there's still hope for that. But I want to see at least one, if not two, surprises from studios that either we've never heard of, or maybe ones that we've heard of but didn't know that they got the opportunity to partner with. Like the one lady that left Tango before the main guy left. She started her own studio, and it was almost like there was a vision difference. Like you were in like two different dimensions, where like during the night or through mirrors, you would see the creatures and things. But during the day, it just looks like normal kids skateboarding or climbing buildings and stuff like that. But, at certain times they would see like the monsters on the other side of the dimension. So you're running through like these cities, throughout like Japan and stuff like that. So I if they partnered with her, that would be awesome to bring that game to Xbox. Possibly even bring it to Game Pass day and date when that game is available or when it's ready. But just seeing some of the partners that they've been working with more recently, and then the other things from like their main studios, like I definitely want to see more Shattered Space. I can't wait to play more. Can't wait to get back to Starfield. I'm kind of purposely not getting back into Starfield until Shattered Space is released, because I know what will wind up happening. I'll get back into my normal routine of doing stuff and then forget about Shattered Space.
Yeah,
and that will kind of defeat the whole purpose.
Starfield is a dangerous game for me to play because I have lots of things in life, and when I play Starfield, I just lose track of time. And I'm just like, whoa, what was I doing? I'm just playing for hours. Yeah. But I will definitely revisit it around Shattered Space season for sure.
Yeah. And then we got like the Diablo stuff, but I'm wondering, and call me crazy on this one, but in that region, things like StarCraft were huge, as far as more so in Korea, I believe, and maybe even in China, but maybe they make the announcement that they're working on the next StarCraft. I know it was a matter before what's his name got let go.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name now, but Mike
us out,
Ibarra.
guys.
Yeah, Mike Ibarra. before he got let go, I know he was like, well, we have to make sure we have the talent or the team that can really, work on that and stuff. And maybe they found that team, or maybe they've put together that team, even though it may not be some of the original people that worked on it, but maybe there are people within Blizzard or other parts of Activision that are like, you know what? I'm all for giving that a try. I want to be on that team. And, maybe they make that announcement that they're revisiting it and we can hopefully expect it in a couple of years kind of thing. That would be an amazing announcement. As far as something from Xbox Studios in general, any updates on anything they're working on, whether it's the stuff that we already know with, South of Midnight or Avowed, that's great. I don't necessarily expect it, but I'm always for seeing updated videos and clips and things, especially if it's State of Decay 3 at this point. But I think the even bigger thing would be some of the partners that we know of the project names, but we haven't seen any of the game just yet. Like there was that Project Shaolin, which is like that Wu-Tang Clan fighting RPG game kind of thing. I'm hoping that we get to hear something about that here soon. I know that there was the project with IO Interactive. I would love to see more of that.
There's so many games.
Yeah, I mean they have a pretty stacked deck as far as a roadmap and things to look forward to. But I'm just hoping there's like at least one or two surprises, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be more than that. But just a couple of the teams that they're working with in that region would be cool. Bringing Square on stage to say, hey, Final Fantasy 16 is coming to Xbox, and maybe a timeline of when Final Fantasy 7 comes to Xbox would be pretty cool. Or maybe maybe their own Forspoken without having it be like Forspoken per se, but like their own private project they do. I don't know. I think Square is willing to work with Xbox almost any which way they can, kind of thing. I won't say it's like out of desperation, but I just feel like they realize, or at least this new CEO realizes the mistakes of the past and doesn't want to, tread that same water anymore. They would rather, make friends with Xbox, knowing that even if it may not exceed what PlayStation does as far as the player count or the sales numbers, but it's better than not having those sales at all, or even the potential of those sales. So I think he's more for the opportunity on this platform, and he's looking at good examples like Capcom and Sega, and how some of their titles have gone into Game Pass. Some of them haven't even gone in Game Pass, but they've come to the platform and they've been adopted by, us, the player base here on Xbox. That like Yakuza, nobody for the longest time ever believed that it would ever come to Xbox. And when it did, it blew up. Like people were playing the crap out of it. And now it feels like one of those you can't live without kind of franchises on the platform. So I know some people may not be the biggest fans of it, but overall, I think it had a much better reception than what even Sega anticipated. And same thing with Persona. Like that was one that if you had a bingo card 5 years ago, you would have never thought Persona was coming to Xbox. So now the fact that there could be that announcement for Persona 6 coming to Xbox before it even gets announced on the Sony stage, that could be huge. Like those types of things I would like to see. And it's not for the console war aspect of things. It's just to show the growth that they've worked on, the work that, Sarah and Phil have been doing over these past few years over there, courting these devs, trying to get, some of the games that we've asked for on here, and or just giving us more of a diverse catalog of games to play. Like I know some people are into the JRPGs. I know some people are into the turn-based RPGs and whatnot. And some of them are into more of the fighters, which we, for the longest time outside of Killer Instinct and your Mortal Kombat, we didn't have Street Fighter 5. Luckily, we have Street Fighter 6, and I'm pretty sure Capcom is like, yeah, we're not making that mistake ever again to only put something on
fighter genre is already niche in itself. The fact that that was such a dumb decision. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point, Capcom was in a tighter spot. Like they didn't have that resurgence from the Resident Evil remakes. Like they did remakes, right? Like that's another thing. If you want to just look back at remakes again, like somebody's doing remakes that aren't even 5 years old now, and Capcom did ones that are a lot older than that and did them really well.
Yeah.
And it shows. And I think that gave them more pep in their step. And now we get games that are maybe they're experimental, maybe they're, kind of like, unproven, or, maybe they don't have as much confidence on something like the Path of the Goddess, or like the Exo Central, or I forget what the other one is with the dinosaurs, but like we got those day one in Game Pass. You can't deny that that's not a huge step or a huge change of things as far as how Capcom works. I mean, and a lot of it kind of started when they brought Monster Hunter over to Xbox. Like when that came over, I don't think they ever expected that type of reception. I think they kind of like, oh, we do well on PlayStation, we do well on Nintendo. Oh wow, Xbox guys love this. Oh yeah, we probably should put more of these over there. So yeah, I think Square realizes they effed up. They saw what Capcom did with Xbox. They saw what Sega's been doing with Xbox, and they're like, you know what, we can do the same thing, and keep our board members happy, and keep our employees happy, and keep the lights on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's interesting because it's not just like a console war thing. Like I could see how some people could take it that way. Like, look, but to me, it's more so about like the market itself. Like the market for a while has been like here's how we can be successful. We just be on PlayStation, get that money up front, and they're realizing like they're restricting their player base by doing that. And it's not really beneficial to you to do that if you're a third party developer. If you're a first party, of course, it makes sense. Like I still believe that exclusives make sense to your brand. If you want to bring people to your ecosystem, all these different things make sense. But if you're a third party developer, you're not really benefiting a lot by continuously doing that with games like Final Fantasy and things that are supposed to be like, when you thought of Final Fantasy back in the day, you thought of how big that game was, like how massive of a world it's supposed to be. So I think Square Enix, how many times have we just heard statements from Square Enix saying that we didn't hit our mark, it didn't meet our expectations. We've seen this so many times. And I remember them saying that with their other branches of companies, with when they sold off Eidos Montreal and all these different studios. I remember saying back then, we've had shows on this. You guys go back and look exactly what we said. I was saying the same thing now. When they had those studios, I was essentially saying like, I don't think like you guys keep saying you're not hitting your mark or whatever, and they continuously have said that, and it's basically, to me, it's just they were blaming it because they are restricting their own market. They're basically saying like, hey, I'm going to restrict it to only PlayStation. Why am I getting the same amount of players? Like they just kept saying that. Like I'm going to restrict to my players. Why are we restricted? I'm just like, the answer is so obvious to me. And then they started blaming their other studios, to me, which is really dumb because Eidos Montreal and all these other studios that they had diversified their portfolio. Like instead of, because I'm kind of interested in Final Fantasy games, but not really. Not as much as I was maybe a couple of years ago. I just don't find it as interesting. I'm interested in trying Final Fantasy 7, but for the most part, I'm not like as interested as I was with their Tomb Raider franchise, with Guardians of the Galaxy. Those are games that I would jump into like without really questioning it. And those were games that they had, by the way, underneath their umbrella that they sold for NFTs. If we really want to go back, they just made some dumb decisions. So on this stage, Tokyo Game Show, I'm excited to I'm always interested in seeing what the future of these brands are. PlayStation, Sony, I have no idea where they're headed, what the heck their their roadmap is, which is why I'm so hard on them right now, because I'm just like, step it up. Like you have this fan base, you're relying on your name to kind of carry you forward, and it's working for the most part because the media refuses to say anything bad about Sony. So they're just really relying on their name. They're not really trying. Nintendo is even, I'll give more praise to Nintendo right now, even though I'm harsh on them too. I think their graphics suck with their tiled grass and whatnot. But yeah, I'm just excited overall about the future of Xbox, seeing where it's going. I thought like I was wondering how much they were going to invest in Japan. And I was initially thinking like, oh, because of Hi-Fi Rush, them having a Japanese studio, that would be the start. They sold their only Japanese studio. So I was like, okay, maybe maybe that's not the move. Maybe they don't want to have internal Japanese companies. Maybe what they want to do is just foster relationships with third party. That's where I think they're going. It seems like that. Yeah, it seems plausible. It seems like that's what they want to do. So make sure they have good relationship with Bandai Namco, with Capcom, with Square Enix. These are like powerhouses. So if you get them on your side, then more people will be happy. Let's see some of these comments, and then I don't have a third topic, so we'll see where we go with that. Calorie says, what's crazy is that the PS4 only sold 10 million in Japan, and the PS5 has only sold 6 million. If these Japanese games from Japanese companies aren't launching on Switch and PC, it's basically dead in Japan. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, Calorie be spitting facts sometimes. What's interesting is Sony itself deprioritized Japan. Like, they basically said, we don't want to really mess with Japan. They're a Japanese company, by the way. They moved to the US. They have bases in California, I believe.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're still a Japanese company. So the fact that they're basically like, we're moving out of Japan, we don't really want to be associated with Japan, and yada yada yada, it really, in my opinion, screwed them up in a lot of ways. Like, they wanted to just get out of the Japanese market, and I feel like that really hurt them. Meanwhile, I guess Switch is probably doing the best. Yeah, Switch is definitely doing the best in Japan. Anything to say that?
Well, the thing I was going to say, I guess they kind of looked at what Nintendo was doing, and they've learned the hard lesson from their handhelds in the past that they didn't do as well as I guess they hoped. Some of it was the lack of support, or the limited support that they did for the handhelds that they made. So they were kind of like, you know what? This seems like a handheld market. We're not doing that again. PSVR is the way to go. And yeah, they changed the circle and the X button as far as the activate and decline or back button or whatever. Like, they flipped them to be more like the way the Americans set, because I think circle used to be okay or go, and then X obviously being bad or something like that. So it's like, and they flipped it around where it's like against their normal understanding or culture or something like that. And then I guess they were like, well, now the European region seems to be more of our lead than Japan. Sure, we still have the main headquarters over in the US, but I think even the UK, was ahead of, as far as like hierarchy. I think they were ahead of like the Japan studios and things. And some of the studios got closed, some of them got reduced in size and did layoffs. And I think it's not that Japan doesn't make them money, or it's not that it's an area that doesn't buy games or electronics in general. But I think that they saw that they were losing the battle to Nintendo and didn't want to go and fight with Nintendo when they're trying to put the boot on the neck on Xbox. They're like, I think they could only focus on one at a time. And I guess they thought they had Xbox cornered, and right now it's like Xbox is like, well, we're not in the corner. We're going to go ahead and make games. We're going to make consoles. We're going to focus on PC. We're going to focus on mobile. And meanwhile, Sony's realizing they didn't focus on mobile. They didn't focus on PC enough, and they should probably look at Xbox's console, playbook to some extent. But
yeah, I just picture Sony
see.
yelling at Xbox in the corner, and then Xbox is like, just steps out of the corner and is like, okay, you can. It's pretty much what they did. I mean,
yeah.
Which in some ways, some people will be like, well, what the heck? Why are you stepping out of the corner? But I mean, it's working for them. I will always be. My stance is, if you guys ever want to know like where my stance always comes from, it always just comes from a gaming slash value perspective. Like, how, as a customer, how much do I have to pay? How much do I get? That is why I am usually never on Sony's side, because they tend to be like, pay a lot for little. And that's just how I look at it personally. But they make some good games, but I'm all about value. Like, Game Pass has been a godsend to me with all the things I pay for outside of gaming. Game Pass has saved me a lot of money. But shout out to everybody in here. There was a couple people who dropped in and said hi. He's like, I gotta watch some replay. Sorry, I'll see you. But appreciate everybody for dropping by. You had J Mac. He says, shout out to the chat. Great to see everybody. Everyone, gray beards in the building. Shout out to you, J Mac. Talos Ray says, hello, 3-Bit Fuzzy and chat. Talos, always good to see you, brother. Decado says, yo, Talos, and he's saying hi to everybody. You got, I got Soul says, just let that clip run. She's so fine. Run it back. He's talking about Sarah Bond. Yeah, I see what you mean. Legendary Yobi, hello, good sir, good to see you. Calorie, always spitting facts, hello. Omi Tony, he usually drops by in almost all the episodes, so appreciate you, man, for dropping on in. Poison, of course, made a mod. I think that was the last episode. Made him a mod. He's been a good mod, so appreciate he helped out my audio levels earlier, so appreciate you, man. Psychonauts dropped in. The Sousa, hello. He was in here earlier. If you're still in here, hello. We had let's see, I don't want to miss anybody. Spartan 661 dropped in earlier as well. Shout out to everybody who dropped in here. Big Mad Mo, all the people who was in here earlier. Always appreciate you guys just dropping in our show. Me and Fuzzy just going for all these topics. We appreciate it. You guys are the reason why we love doing these shows on multiple things. So appreciate y'all. So I don't got a third topic, but Fuzzy, if there's anything you want to talk about, we could definitely jump into it, man.
I think about the only other thing, and it's like there's so much buzz about Xbox now at a handheld. It would be cool if they show it at the Tokyo Game Show, or at the Game Awards by the end of this year. But I really am hoping this is something like a Steam Deck where you can play PC games on it. Whether you link it to your Steam account or your Xbox PC store account. But I also wanted to play the console games. So like the games I already own for console, that some of them are dual entitlement, some of them are not. Some of them I have like Microsoft Flight Sim. It works on both PC and console. If that handheld can play both of them, I don't need a Steam Deck 2. I don't even need a Steam Deck that I have at this point. If that thing comes out and it can play both, I won't need my current Steam Deck or even look at a Steam Deck 2. That will be my go-to device. I could take on the road, and when I don't feel like firing up my PC, or maybe I don't feel like sitting at the TV up here playing on the console, I could just play that any part of the house, or dock it and play on the TV downstairs or something. But I'm hoping we get to either see it or hear about it soon, because I know they're doing the new clear controller, like that blue
Oh yeah, yeah.
see-through kind of controller.
Hmm.
I know we got more hardware coming, and it just feels like there's a thing in the air about this handheld now that I think we hear something here soon. I can't wait.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And we if we talking about like where Xbox will be and where Sony will be, it's reports that PlayStation is working on the PS6, and that is scheduled to be released 2028.
Mm-hmm.
And Xbox's new system, which is most likely a handheld, is scheduled for 2026.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very good timeline for Xbox, for a
Mm-hmm.
multitude of reasons. Them possibly having a leg up in the GTA space. You talk about like the PS5 Pro, which probably is based on what I've seen, won't do much in terms of frame rate. I don't think, especially for open world type games. I hope they prove me wrong. Um, but just based on what I've been seeing for Digital Foundry and things like that,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if this is going to be the box that box. Um, but it will
Mm-hmm.
be. I'm sure it'll be an improvement. Like things in distance and stuff like that. But it seems like if we're talking about the race to GTA performance, um, Xbox having that next gen console is pretty good for them, especially if we look at the statements from Sarah Bond and things like that. It seems like they want to achieve being the most powerful console again, just
Mm-hmm.
based on what Sarah Bond has said, but also making it so it's feasible in the market. And other statements they said, it makes me think that it's going to be a handheld.
Yeah.
Um,
I think we
I
might
would
even
love
get
that.
both. We might get the handheld, which would replace the Series S level, and I think we still get the tabletop one, or the one you would put under your TV. But the handheld could probably do both with a dock or something like that, or maybe it's just a handheld, and then if you want the quote unquote like under the TV version, get the dock, like 150 more, let's say, or something along those lines, and you have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Pretty much like the Switch, but with beefier much beefier hardware, or even more beefier hardware than the Switch 2, because that one is as great as it sounds on paper. It's still like PS4 ish range, um, but it'll have potential to have DLSS, like PC NVIDIA stuff, kind of techniques to make it look better. But I think Xbox, that's part of that most technically advanced thing. I think they're going to have an AI chip that helps with that upres that they're doing, because they already have something that they're working on with Windows. I think it's for Windows 12. They'll have it on the software level already built in. So anybody that's considering PC, I think, well, one, they'll probably be the guinea pigs for it before it comes to console, and two, they'll have it all kind of like figured out by the time that handheld comes out. So yeah, it'll look great playing on the handheld in 1080, but when you hook it to your TV, it'll upscale from 1440 to 4K, and you probably won't be able to tell the difference, much like you wouldn't be able to tell the difference on a PC using DLSS. So we'll see. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Heck yeah. And the chat is going off right now. Let me go to Psycho real quick. He says, I had a customer today that had his PSN account hacked. He lost his profile, all his games, and they charged 400 to his credit card. And he follows that up with they called Sony and said he lost his phone, and they gave the hackers access to his account. And when he called Sony, he told him sorry, but we can't do anything about it. So he traded his PS5 for a Series X. During the Great
Wow.
Hack, that huge Sony hack where a lot of accounts were um, basically hacked into, credit cards, all that different stuff. Guess who was also a part of that? Me.
Mhm.
I was a part of that. That hack. That was great. so many people tried to use my credit card information, all the things. That was lovely, by the way. I really love that.
I sense the sarcasm.
It's for me. Whenever I try to buy games on PSN, it's like my credit cards do not like PlayStation Network at all.
Yeah.
I have to use like PayPal and stuff like that to buy games on PSN. I think maybe it's because it's a Japanese company. I don't know.
Some companies have like built-in card holder protection, and there was a time where PlayStation was on everybody's like credit card crap list. I won't say the full word, but I every time I would make a purchase, I would get that fraud alert call, like, did you make this purchase for $59.99 plus tax? Hit one, and I'm like, yes, I made the order. And it's like after a while, it's like if the credit card is trying to send me a message that I probably shouldn't use it for, then and I switched to PayPal, and that kind of solved the
I had to
problem.
use PayPal.
And then I just started buying all my games on Xbox. So it was like there was no need to buy a third party game on PlayStation anymore. So that fixed the glitch as well. So
Yep. Buying it on Xbox, that fixed it. But yeah, something I've never really trusted Sony's system because I got hacked. Is not a console war thing. They just have had terrible security. In my experience, my personal experience. So I'm with you, Psycho, whoever that guy was. Sorry he got all his information out there. It happened to me as well. And I guess the last time, I just use PayPal every now and then, and that seems to be okay. But even then, I just feel weird buying games on PS5 in general because of that. So then we had said something complimented my
Yobi's little brother had a similar experience with Sony.
Oh yeah, there it
it's
is.
Like,
yeah. Yobi says my little brother was a part of it too. He lost $500. He had to go through his bank to get it back. Not Sony. Yeah, this is the stuff I don't see enough of because I'm sure maybe it's happened to some people on Xbox, but I just see it way more on Sony's side because their security is not very good. It's why you have to pay to have customer service on Sony. Like there's the premium tier where you have better customer service. They're supposed to respond to you faster or whatever, and even then it's absolutely garbage. So.
It's like they answer the call 2 minutes earlier and they still tell you you're beat.
Yeah. They were like, oh, they answer faster just to tell you the same information. Be like, no. Like I remember someone tried to refund. I feel like it was one of some peeps in our fun spec group was trying to refund the game on PlayStation and it just was not working. I can't remember what it was. It was a while ago.
Well, there was somebody that's part of that PlayStation Nation that always, he didn't really make fun of people when it would happen, but he was like, oh, well, you should probably contact your credit card company. And then I guess something like that happened to his son. Either his son made purchases against his account or something happened with the account got, compromised, and he called them. They were like, yeah, there's nothing that we can do. And then he called his bank and then they did a chargeback and then Sony closed his account. And then he went on Twitter to complain about it. And it's like, I remember you pointing back at the people that had similar issues. And it's like, and I remember people will say like, Sony is like the worst on customer service. And there's so many in the PlayStation, corral that are like, oh no, their customer service is just fine. Microsoft sucks. And it's like, well, the only thing that sucks now is that you don't get the live person like you used to on the phone, but you can do the online chat and it's just as good, if not, comparable. But I mean, if there's a serious problem, like if your account does get compromised, you can get a live person, but you better have all of your account info ready for them. And I've had my son's account get hacked, and they got it fixed in like 2 hours. So I don't know. I've never, no, knock on wood, have never had problems with Microsoft, but
Yeah.
Sony, it's like, yeah, I use PayPal, and if they close my account, I guess I don't need to give Sony any more money then. And
Yeah, it
they'll
is what
fix the
it is.
glitch for me.
I've had the same Xbox account since I was 10 years old. I'm 29 now. It's the same. You guys can check my Xbox Live thing. It has the amount of years or whatever. I think I lost some years for whatever reason, but it's up there. Haven't had a single hack or anything like that. So it's been pretty good. And in terms of refunds, they've always given me refunds.
Yeah.
Which I remember the first game I refunded was dang, it was that SpongeBob game that and
Oh
what was
yeah.
that?
The Nickelodeon thing.
Yeah, the Nickelodeon Brawlers. If you guys could watch a stream where me, Mav, Pong, or whatever, we were all trying to play that game because we wanted to like fight each other in it. One of the worst games I've ever played on launch. It was awful. That was the first game I refunded like immediately. And yeah, they did a pretty good job. And then I was like, ooh, I could refund stuff. Like just a thought. And then I started refunding some other games after that. But Sony, I tried to refund, I think it was Death Stranding or something like that, because I already bought it. Like I bought it twice or something like that, and they would not. They refused to give you your money back. So that was great.
I got your money.
Yeah, they got me. Decado says Xbox just needs to leave SoC APU behind ABS. Oh my gosh, so many keywords. Hold on, I gotta read this. Xbox just needs to leave SoC slash APU behind ABS, embrace CPU and GPU, or CPU, APU, GPU, since it's AMD. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I'm actually really interested because we know Microsoft has invested a lot of money with Intel. We know they made a deal or something with Intel. So it'd be beneficial for them to go with Intel, but they've been with AMD for so long, so many years. So I'm curious what they're gonna do for this console. Most likely they're just going to go AMD again just because of the Series X and whatever. It's just easier to keep it within that vein. But I have a feeling this might be the last generation of consoles in a minute. There might be one more after this, maybe, but I feel like we're hitting that end. What do you think, Fuzz? You think we're hitting there? Like this one, maybe another one?
I think you're onto something. I have a weird view of what hardware is going to look like in a few years. Like although I'm also the weird guy that said I'm surprised we still have disk drives. Like I thought by this holiday that would be the end of it. Like no developer, big time AAA developer would be releasing physical copies. Like I thought physical copies would go the way of what do you call it? Like the limited run stuff. That's still probably a couple of years away. I still think it's eventually coming to that point where physical copies are not going to be a thing like they used to. But I would have thought that was already an over and done with thing. But console wise, I think this is the last gen where the hardware that we're familiar with, like a handheld and a desktop, like regular console that you put by your TV, I think that's the last time they look like that. I honestly think by the following generation, all of the hardware you need to have the level of gaming that we have today will be able to fit in your Xbox controller. Like I honestly think and I'm going to say something like 2030, let's just say maybe 2032, those generation of consoles will be controllers with all of the hardware, basically the chip that you would need, the brain of the console will be able to fit in the controller. Like the closest example now, there's a company that's doing like a handheld PC kind of thing, but it's like a controller, but with no screen because you use the glasses. I don't know if we're quite there yet where you can do like AR glasses and have that handheld, but I think we're not far off where you buy the controller. Like controllers now are like $70, $75 for Xbox, like 80 something for PlayStation. I think maybe by that point, controllers are 100, 120 for your basic ones, but it has all of the hardware needed to be able to wirelessly connect to your TV, have 4K graphics, 60 frames, and not get hot to the touch after playing for 4 hours. I think that's the future. I could be very wrong, but I don't think what we think of consoles will exist because the chipset will be able to be downsized to the point where you see how small our cell phones are. I think they can go even smaller to the point where that tech will fit in your controller and you won't notice a difference.
That's where they want to go. Like I generally just, it feels like the last generation, but I just think that's why they're so adamant about putting things in the cloud. That's why technology is just progressing pretty fast. But we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing. Yobi said, "Can you read what I commented above?" So he said, "Dang, I just had it. Where'd it go?" He said, "Just give 3 things for the Xbox handheld." This is his wish list of stuff that he wants for the Xbox handheld. He wants our thoughts on it. 1, allow us to change the internal SSD for upgrading. I agree. Add a slot for your expansion card, and then 3, quick resume.
Those are all 3 must-haves. I totally agree. The expansion card, if it's like an SD card, I think that's fine because we've been able to see SD cards work well for like these handheld PCs. But he's definitely right. Like if you can expand the SSD, kind of like you can do it with the Steam Deck and you can do it with the ROG Ally. It's a little bit trickier, I think, on the Steam Deck than the ROG Ally. I think they made it a little bit easier or user friendly to do. That's almost like a have to have because like if they make one with 1 TB, it might be $500 out the gate. But the way SSD prices drop over time, you could probably put 2 TB in for like $100 and some odd dollars within a short, it probably sub 100 by the time the handheld is out. And then having quick resume, like Microsoft has been trying to put quick resume into Windows 11. I think it might make an appearance in Windows 12. It's coming soon to PC. I'm so glad we got it in console first, but that's like, that is the future. The minute that they can figure out how to do that on PC with like their Xbox app or something like that, it's going to be a game changer. And then we'll see that in the handheld. We'll see that in pretty much anything that Xbox can license or Microsoft can license. Like we might even see quick resume or something similar on other devices because they'll be able to license it. Because Microsoft is that company that has the game stack, and they have like most games that you play, even on other devices. Microsoft owns the engine or owns the behind the scenes stuff for it, or like the video capture codecs and stuff like that you see for certain cutscenes. So yeah, I could totally see them licensing that out to PlayStation. So PlayStation will, instead of being quick resume, it'll be like continue play or something. They'll come up with some silly name for it, and PlayStation fans will be like, "Oh, look what PlayStation invented!" And it's the same tech that they licensed from Microsoft, type of deal.
Yeah, and he follows that up by he says the expansion card slot will be your expansion card from your Xbox.
Oh, that would be cool if they can figure out how to make that card work on, like, let's say the handheld, which it's just a matter of time or just a matter of like fitting it in there. I think they can. That would be awesome because you wouldn't need to worry about buying a whole new, proprietary part. Like carry that over from your Xbox. Like, hey, I got it plugged into my Series X, but I'm going to take all those games I already have installed, plug it into the handheld, take that on the road. Yeah, that would be a game changer. That would be. Mean, Microsoft they're not known for hardware, but look at the Surface laptops and things. But and the tech that they put into the series consoles, yeah, it's possible. I hope they do it. But
Yeah, they're
yeah,
not always they're usually known for their software, but what they did in this generation with the Series X, like, was very impressive to me.
yeah.
I mean, you have the PS5 where it's like I have to put it but like behind my setup because of how big it is, and it's just like it's just ugly to look at in my opinion. It looks like a router. Um, but what they did with the box with quick resume and everything too with the software side was really cool. So if they find ways, that's what's going to be interesting me with the handheld. If they find ways to make it super seamless from the Series X, like your expansion card slots that you're talking about, Yobi. If you start to just think about like making it that maybe it's a part of your Series X experience too, would be cool. But
Yeah.
if they do like a whole new memory card thing that you have to buy, like I hate that stuff. So I hope they don't do anything like that. Like a specialized memory card they
Mhm.
can only buy with the thing. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Um, so if they do that, then hopefully it's just what they already have done with the Series X, and you can just kind of
Yeah.
plop it in. So
No, but having
Rod,
those three things would be killer. Like having it where you can use your expansion card, being able to change out the SSD,
yeah,
quick resume,
yeah, quicker zoom on a
all in
handheld.
2026.
Whoo! That's gonna be so. Oh, you guys are hyping me up. You're just making me think of stuff I even think about when you have a handheld. Again, having a handheld in general, it changes the game up a little bit of like what they can do, to bring in different features. When you have a handheld, you have to think about feasibility of why you want to do a handheld, um, and how to do it properly, making it where you're like, okay, if I'm going to have a dock thing, make sure that that experience is really easy, make it good on the go. Quick resume on a handheld, oh my gosh, that would be insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be also dangerous. I'll be playing Starfield like on a toilet, on the airplane, like everywhere. Yeah, that'd be awesome. We're gonna close up for a little bit, but I'm gonna read some of you guys' comments. So you guys have been absolutely killing it. Maybe that's what we'll do for a third topic. Sometimes we'll just read
Yeah.
what you guys say, and we'll just have conversations with you guys, because you guys are awesome. Rod Mende Fan 804 says it would be interesting to see Xbox just become a completely open platform where you can upgrade the CPU and GPU whenever you want, or just stick with the product that comes in the console. Maybe if they do that, and I want to hear, Fuzzy, what you have to say, and then we'll close out.
Mhm.
If they do that, maybe they can have like two different versions, or something like because then it gets into like the PC kind of territory where
Yeah.
like what people like about PCs is customizable and stuff like that. I'm in the camp with
Mhm.
just ship me the thing I want to play it out of the box. But maybe they can have like a box version where you get like here, not as customizable, and then one that doesn't break your warranty, and maybe you can actually upgrade the CPU and GPU. That could be cool for sure.
Yeah. I
What do you
mean,
think?
there's been some, and this isn't like NDA stuff or anything, but there
Mhm.
has been some attempts of making a CPU friendly console kind of thing. Not like what they originally, like the Steam box was probably one of the originals that I can think of where
Oh
they
yeah,
partnered with
right.
Alienware and a couple others, but not that. There was, think of the Xbox One X, but having a port in the back where you could plug in, let's say, the equivalent of a 2080 with like a dock, or like a 3080 or a 4080 or something like that. Um, there were some things looked at for that. There are things already out there for like the handheld PCs. Like if you have a ROG Ally or if you have a Steam Deck, you can buy docks that will accept an upgradable video card. Um, And I think Xbox took a serious look at that, but I think they were afraid of how out of control that can get. And it's not that it would be a bad thing. It could be more of a confusing thing because, like, let's say, for example, they go and do this, but they're partnered still with AMD, but you want to do an NVIDIA card, then you'd have to get an adapter that works with that port.
Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
would the game still work the same? Because if it's normally looking for FSR related, tech, but you're using NVIDIA where it's more, DLSS proprietary or whatever, I think that's where they're afraid that that could lead to customers being upset with them, even though they didn't go with the guidelines for the cards, or people getting experimental because there are some of us out there that are tinkerers that would find a way to make that adapter for the 3080 or the 4080 to work with that. So it's been looked at. I don't know if we get it in that fashion. Like my fear is they're going to make their own box like look at the Surface laptops, for example. They're going to make their own top of the top line stuff, like what we see with the Series X, what we see with the Xbox One X even. And then the rumors now is that maybe somebody like Asus that makes the ROG Ally makes their version of the Xbox. And I don't know if people are ready for that or if it'll be as accepted, because in some cases maybe Asus puts in like one of those water cooled cards or something like that equivalent in
Yeah.
it, and it winds up being $200 more than your standard top of the line Xbox. Well, which one is the better one? And then you'll have people like Digital Foundry. Well, was it worth the 200? And then they only compare the standard one that's not the extra 200 to all of the mid-gen refresh PS6s or whatever. So
Yeah, Digital Foundry is weird. They've always done like comparisons that they deem as fair, but the way they do it is like doesn't make sense to me. Like when you factor in like stuff like quick resume, your game technically loads up really quick, but they
yeah.
usually want to do things from like a hard boot standpoint, but that's not your everyday gaming experience and things like
Right.
that. The
Well,
way
the
I
funny thing was even when they did the cold boot, the Xbox in like 6 out of 10 games was still faster.
yeah, that too. Yeah.
So it's like you do realize you could have shaved off 6 seconds if you just did the quick resume, because as soon as you turned it on, you click the button and you're back where but
they never
I
want to
don't
do
know.
that. Yeah, they
No.
never want to compare that, which is if you really wanted to compare, I mean, I know it will it will make the PS5 look bad, but that's the reality of
Mhm.
you know. Um, and then one thing I wanted to hit on is developers hate Xbox right now for the Series S and making them optimize their game, which they should do in the first place. I can't imagine developers being super mad when you get to customize your own like spec. That was just something I thought about when you were talking. Was like develop from the development stage. Are we still good? Okay, we disconnected for like 5 seconds. We are gonna get on out of here. Appreciate everybody for dropping on by. Fuzzy, close us on out. Let's see. Are we're good now. Close us out. Tell people where they could find you. All the things.
Well, as always, it's always a pleasure doing this podcast with you. Love hearing your takes. Just love, shooting the shit with you as far as for gaming. Love interacting with the chat. Love your guys' input and some of the questions that you guys ask, and just talking about this hobby we all love. That's what makes it fun these Sunday nights and things. And it's a good way to kind of like end the week before we go back to work on Monday and wake up early and whatnot. So this is a good way to forget about the Mondays that come tomorrow thing. But as always, you can find me on Twitter. My rambles and rants on the app formerly known as Twitter at fuzzy_Belvedere. Hope to see you guys on or in the chat for some of the shows for Monday, Xbox lunch break special, 12 noon on Double Barrel Gaming with Mr. Boomstick. And then later that evening, FSP, more than likely me and 3-Bit as well as Mav, and probably Psycho will be there as well, and maybe even Jasper will be, able to spare some time with us as well. Look forward to seeing you guys 10 p.m. Fun Speculations channel tomorrow night, and then look forward to just all the podcasts. Just follow me on Twitter to see all the podcasts I'm on. Yep. Oh, and if you're a horror fan, check out my wife's podcast Friday evenings, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. I think we're going to be talking about zombie strippers this coming Friday. So
nice. Heck yeah. the episode I was on, I was still thinking about that. That was really fun. I gotta hop back on there for sure for another episode. And Decado said Xbox said 3-Bit was about to give trade secrets and then it gave me a 5-second delay. Yeah, that's probably what happened. Phil Spencer is like sniping the show, make sure I don't leak anything. Appreciate everybody for dropping on by. Again, you guys really motivate us, and you guys got great conversations in the chat, and I never take that for granted. You guys showing up every time we do this show, it's awesome. We were on a break, but we're back, so check out the next episode next Sunday. Stay tuned on our Twitter, official Twitter. I think it's just Pixelated Echo, or it's like Pix Echo or something like that. So check that out for any news or updates that we may have. Other than that, we'll see you guys next Sunday. I am on FSP on Mondays, what Fuzzy was basically talking about, and then this show. That's pretty much it. But I do appear, like I was on last Friday's Xbox Ultimate on Fun Speculation channel. Go check that out. Check out the special for the 200 episodes. That was a great show. We had Dirk Griggity on. We had Boom.
We had King on.
King David was on.
It was just an awesome night. Like the family showed up. All of the supportive members and that have we've appeared on their podcast and appeared on some of our episodes and stuff like that. It was just cool to have everybody there, and even some of those that couldn't make it. It was just great to see them in the chat say what's up and stop on by or catch us on replay. It was just an awesome time in general. I know you were getting ready to leave. It was a little early on your end where you were and stuff, but it was still awesome being on there with you and stuff like that. So that was an awesome
I was
time.
there very briefly. So I wasn't there because I was literally headed to the airport and I was sick. So you can hear like the sickness in my voice. And it was like I didn't want to wake up my wifey at the time, so I'm like, hey guys, I'm 3-Bit. It was just like a lot of things was happening on my end, but it's a great episode, so definitely go check that out if you guys haven't. Other than that, we'll see you guys on the next episode of Pixelated Echo. If you guys agreed with us or not, let us know in the comment section down below, and we'll see you guys on episode 21. We're in 20 now. Woo! 20. Yeah. Let's go. All right, bye y'all.